Is Kali, my mother, really black? The naked one of blackest hue lights the lotus of my heart. Is Kali, my divine mother, of a black complexion? She appears black because she's viewed from a distance. When intimately known, she is no longer so. The sky appears blue at a distance, but look at it close, and you will find that it has no color. The water of the ocean looks blue at a distance, but when you go near and take it in your hand, you find that it's colorless. The black bee of my mind is drawn in sheer delight to the blue lotus flower of Mother Shyama's feet. The blue flower of the feet of Kali, Shiva's consort, tasteless to the bee, are the blossoms of desire. My mother's feet are black, and black too is the bee. Black is made one with black. This much of the mystery my mortal eyes behold, then hastily retreat. But Kamalakanta's hopes are unanswered in the end. He swims in the sea of bliss. He swims in the sea of bliss, unmoved by joy or pain. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Encountering the great goddess is today's topic. Swami Satyamayananda is here. He is the assistant minister of the Divine Society. Yes, the Vedanta Society of Southern California. Welcome, Swami. We're all divine.
Thank you, Dhyana Yogananda, for summing up my talk in a few lines. And thank you also for greeting everybody good morning. So that does it. We'll plunge straight into the topic. And we've heard of close encounters of the first and second and third kind. This is going to be a novel encounter with the divine. Okay. We just heard about the divine goddess. Yeah, and she seems a mystery. She seems so distant. She seems so kind of remote. But then we unknowingly, we do encounter her. Because wherever there's life, there has to be an encounter. You encounter the external world. Sight, sounds, taste, touch, smells, imaginations, dreams, hopes, loves, beauty, all these things. These are real encounters. So this is, in a way, close encounters. I would say that every creature encounters this great goddess. And this encounter is both internal and external. Now, we don't need to kind of go away with the thought that, okay, yeah, this is a great goddess, but this is the reality. So we are encountering the reality. And as we know, yet we don't know. We are encountering the reality without knowing it. But the great goddess also encounters us. So it's appropriate to say that the great goddess is encountering us on multiple levels of our being. So why and what is the great goddess? We've read the goddess, and this is something that modern society needs to have a relook and a rethink of all these old goddesses that we have worshipped for not thousands of years, millions of years. It's not just the divine feminine who was in charge of birth and death and the cyclic nature of life and fertility and all these things. But this great goddess has come to us in our long history of millions of years and has been encountering us. So this great goddess, she is spoken of as a creator, as a divine, as a godhead, as a demiurge, as celestial, as beautiful, a supreme being, the divinity, etc., etc., etc. An avatar, as a human, as a phenomenon. And we have been used to these concepts subconsciously. If you look at our human race, we have developed ourselves phenomenally. It's because of the mind, of course. Let's not go into the various factors that evolved the mind into a superior mind. But there's one uniqueness that stands above everything. When we see this world outside, we encounter this world outside, there is the power in the human mind which can reflect that encounter within, because we are self-conscious beings. Consciousness is always self-conscious. Now you heard about all these things like awareness and self-awareness and mindfulness and this and that. These are just derivatives of that basic consciousness, which is self-consciousness, which is in us. So do you encounter things outside or inside? This has been the greatest conundrum of epistemology. Epistemology is a branch of philosophy. Where do we engage with things, outside or inside? Both ways. We encounter things outside, and the reflection of that outside flashes inside. It flashes in consciousness. This is the unique property of consciousness. Okay. So just imagine for thousands and millions of years, when we are not so populous, we are almost 8 billion now, when we are small bands of hunter-gatherers, and we used to encounter the darkness and then the dawn and sunlight and thunder and rain and storms and earthquakes and volcanoes. What is the first thing that happens to the human mind? It's shaken. What is this? What are these forces? And then we also encountered the intimate things like bereavements. We encountered disease and death and illnesses and loss. This also is an encounter. And we were saying, what is this? What is this power behind all these things? So imagine you've seen a storm, a raging storm, and it has just whipped you up into a kind of a frenzy. You've somehow survived that storm. And the next time you encounter the storm again, you kind of bow down and worship it. This was the beginning of religion. the forces behind nature, the forces that impel nature. And as these forces are various, so we had all these multiple forces personalized. And that is another unique property of the mind. It needs to personalize things to understand it. Because the mind works on this principle of name and form. As the old Indian philosopher said, Nama Rupa. Name and form. You just can't think of anything without name and without a form. Every name has a form and every form has a name. And we personalized all these various forces into these various deities and gods and goddesses and imps and elves and nymphs and forest deities and the human species, the human mind is very imaginative. We put color and taste and sound and beautiful sounding names, and the whole world was now teeming with these deities that controlled certain aspects of nature. So we had a goddess of dawn, and we had a goddess of the storms, and we had a goddess of the rains, and we had a goddess of this and that, and don't go to the forest, there are these elves there, and these semi-gods and demigods. This is the characteristic of ancient human society. They encountered these forces, these divinities. And it's obvious that, okay, we encounter all these things, but it's obvious that we have no power over these forces. We are powerless. And how do we compensate for this? We propitiate them. We worship them. And that began again the second phase of religious development. You see, religion did not start some few thousand years ago. Oh no. Religion has been there as long as humans could think. Not humans, they're primates, from primate levels. Because we see signs of burial, of veneration for the dead, veneration for certain sacred places. Don't go to that grove. That's a sacred place. So this was actually what religion was. Yeah, so, in India, they laugh at us. You know why? Because God, these guys, they've got thousands of gods and goddesses. They're pagans, they're idolaters. Well, between you and me, they're not thousands, they're millions. Why should one coat fit all? I don't see any reason. And the ancient humans, each one must be able to have that freedom to worship according to his or her own nature and capacity and understanding. So we had this variety of gods and goddesses. Everybody had a freedom. There was no central authority to say only this. You could design your own gods and goddesses as long as you kept the central concept that they are as the emanations from the reality. So many people did not understand the other side of human mind, which seeks to bring out the connections. That is what makes us unique also. We try to bring in the connections. Why are we feeling isolated? Why are we feeling vacuumed? Why am I feeling lonely? Once you can understand how connected we are with the whole world, then comes a sense of unity. This is very important. Swami Vivekananda says, unity in variety is the plan of creation. Yeah, I remember when I was very young and I'd seen this massive picture of Swami Vivekananda, and in that this was kind of written down on the unity in variety is the plan of creation. And I was so struck. Yeah, and I'm still struck. Well, this is what it is. They had this idea of unity, the unification of all things. So all these gods and goddesses and the millions of gods and goddesses everywhere teeming, the sages abstracted all the best qualities and they made all these into one meta goddess, the transcendent. So all these gods and goddesses are derived from that great one goddess. This is clear. And this was in the earliest forms of Vedic hymns, where the goddess says, yeah, the power behind everything is me. I work things, I break things, I make things. That's me. So we have this idea of a kind of a meta goddess. This was, as I say, the great goddess, the Mahadevi. Maha is great, Devi is the goddess. And you see, Sri Ramakrishna used to always look on every woman as a representation or an image of the Divine Mother. That does not mean only the women, of course, even the men. And not only men, everything else is. So we have, in the earliest literature, we have goddesses emerge from that great goddess and merge back into her. For specific functions of nature, these goddesses emerge from this. And again, they absorb back inside. So this was, and how do you approach that great goddess? Is she a thunderer? Frightening? Well, Swami Satyamayananda was just saying, when seen at a distance, she appears either blue or black like the sky or water. But when you approach it, cup that water in your hand or see the sky around you, it's colorless. Similarly, when you see that great goddess at a distance, she appears in this great goddess form. When you approach her, and as you approach her with the idea that she is the mother. That's the highest point in womanhood. Yeah. Why? Because, no, she is a nurturer. And that's the reason why she is a protector, she is a creatrix, she is the matrix of creation in a microcosmic way. So when you approach that great goddess as the mother, then she becomes quickly propitious to us. That's the idea. And this is nowadays important, that we need to rethink our modern conceptions of God. Yeah. Look at it as the woman, the mother. And from this will bring a new kind of life into human minds, which are whipped with a kind of a frenzy and a kind of aggressiveness and a kind of destructiveness that the race has never seen before. This will mellow the human mind. So, encounter. So we are encountering this world and we don't know its real nature. And most of our encounters, sometimes encounters leaves us enriched. We come away, feeling good. There are some encounters leaves us impoverished, horrible, feeling bad, terrible and unhappy. There are some encounters really joyful, coming in face to face in contact with something, but the residue always is you come with knowledge. The more you interact with this world, the more you come away from it with knowledge. So it helps you with the next encounter. And then you are slightly better, and then you become stronger and stronger. And it all depends on your sensibilities, your sensitivity. We see this external world outside, it's perfect, everything is so beautiful. Oh, really? You don't see the other side. Well, take for instance, like, we see this external world, but if there are poets, they will see the world differently. Or there's an artist, and there are some artists you can see them. There's the musicians, they will see this world differently. So, as your sensibilities keep on getting refined, you see this world that you encounter differently. And then you will see beauty, you will see love, you will see science. When you encounter this world, what's this? You want to know the laws that govern this phenomena. Yes, this has been always the bedrock of human development. Keep a person in solitary confinement. See what happens. You know what happens? Well, they're saying you don't need to torture a person. Just keep that person in solitary confinement. And that person goes crazy. Yeah, the person loses his mind. Because that person is cut away from all types of encounters, new encounters. But then, like I said, you need to have a little refinement. Imagine a bull in a china shop. Yeah, he does not know what China is. He'll keep on smashing things up. Or a person who does not know art will go to an art gallery. Oh my God, why do people pay so much for this kind of rubbish? Well, to him it's rubbish, but to those who know, it's worth $1 million. That's the idea. So we are encountering things. The same phenomena which is being encountered is being guided by our own sensibilities. So we see deeper and deeper. You're trying to peel back the layers and look deeper into the heart of matter, heart of the encounter. And then we see, okay, at the deepest level, what do we encounter? It's called an ensouled divinity. Yes, those old divinities that were pervasive everywhere, you encounter them. And they awaken. See, every encounter is kind of leaves a residue of knowledge. When you encounter this divinity, you come away with the sense of your own divinity. This is the best way to awaken your own divinity. And at the deepest level of your own divinity, what do you encounter? At the deepest level of your own divinity, you encounter that great goddess. As simple as that. Where is that great goddess? If you remember, whatever we see outside is then reflected back into our consciousness. We perceive things here. We perceive things here. The world may be outside, but your perception of it is here. So, this is the way to awakening ourselves. So purify your mind, purify your senses, purify your intellect, purify your soul. How do we purify it? Encountering. By encountering. Understand the dynamics of the encounter, and that itself is a purificatory process. Yes. You don't have to do some special rite or special, you can say, worship, or a special pilgrimage, or a special kind of, nothing special. Just do it with a sense of awareness. And that will purify you. And that will awaken you. So much for philosophy or epistemology or psychology, whatever you like to name it. But look at it like that. The philosophical underpinnings of all worship in Vedanta is the worship of the absolute. People say, these guys, they worship that stone or that tree or that image. No, we don't. Nobody ever worships a stone or an image or a symbol. These are just symbols. These are just things that represent the infinite. These are finite symbols that represent the infinite. We need them. And the human mind has evolved to conceptualize and personalize these forces of nature into symbols. You see Zeus with a kind of with a thunderbolt. You say, what is this guy doing with a thunderbolt? It's incongruous. No. It is a symbol. The symbol signifies something else. So every time you understand every worship of any symbol or image, it always represents the absolute. Humans are no fools, you see. We have been kind of worshipping all these things. And if you ask those people, what are you worshipping? Yeah, I'm worshipping God through symbology. As simple as that. So Sri Ramakrishna gives the example a snake in motion and a snake still, in the dynamic and static aspects. So when the snake is still, it is at absolute. That same absolute, when it is creating, preserving, destroying, etc., this whole creative processes are going on, it's in a dynamic aspect. That same snake is moving, as it were. It's the same snake. One of the iconography of the great goddess Kali is, she is dancing on the breast of Shiva. Okay. Well, ask that. You look at it's shattering to male pride. What's that? See that goddess standing on the Shiva. Actually, Shiva represents the absolute. And on the absolute is the dynamic aspect, the Kali aspect is playing out its drama of this massive creation. Let me give you an idea of how great this goddess is. If we are encountering the great goddess, just to give the idea of what's great. Okay. When we think a thought, we always want to translate it into action. So you have the sensory nerves and the whole system and the motor system. Every thought has a counterpart. It's the sensory and the motor. Has to be. If you do only one thing, you will be in your own world of imagination. You must be able to translate every thought into an action. This is also part of human nature. And that's the reason why we've been building things up. We conceptualize things and then we build things up. Yeah. Now the guy who built this hall, he conceptualized it first in mind. And then he translated that ideas onto paper, and from paper, as we know, into brick and wood and stone. Every thought starts with there and is translated. So this great goddess, she also translates these thoughts. And what are these thoughts? She creates. And she looks after this creation. And she dissolves it. I mean, she doesn't kill it. She's a great recycler. I wish we could learn from nature. We are stupid enough. And we are suffering for it. By our stupidity, of course. She recycles everything. Creates new things out of that recycled material, and that constant creative process is on over and over and over again. Even right now, it's happening in our bodies and our minds and our spirits everywhere. So this is a great, she just wills. I am one, let me be many. And she becomes the many. Yeah, that's a tremendous, you can say, will. Her will is unstoppable, irrepressible. Nobody can obstruct her will. Because, she is the reality. Imagine if something else is the reality, we are going to have a big trouble. No choice. We are spoiled with choices. So apart from this philosophy, etc., let's look at it from an actual experience. Totapuri was the guru of Sri Ramakrishna, Vedanta guru. Okay. And he, from a very young age, he was trained to dismiss the external world as an illusion. He did not believe the external world existed at all. And he followed that principle. He dealt with this external world like one would deal with an illusion. Like you see a mirage. Okay, what's that mirage? Oh yeah, it's a mirage. Yeah, I know. The next day you see a mirage. You're not going to get deluded with that. You're not going to go to that mirage for water. Isn't it? He used to look at this whole world. So he initiated Sri Ramakrishna in the mysteries of Vedanta. And he generally lived only 3 days in one place. But in this case, he lived for 11 months continuously. So one time, it was the beginning of his colic pain, terrible pain. He somehow used to pull his mind up and plunge into meditation and ignore all the pain. Because finally the body is kind of dispensable. It was meaningless to him. He was a perfect knower of Brahman. And it went on for days and days, and till one time he was trying to meditate and the pain pulled his mind down to the body, and he got so disgusted. Off with this body. So to the middle of the night, he waded down to the river, the Ganga. It is deep, but that night the water just came up to his ankles. What happened? He waded from the shore, went deeper, almost halfway through, in the middle of the river, he again is saying, there's no water. What is this divine Maya? There's not water enough to drown my body up here. And as he was contemplating, what is this? A kind of a veil that covered his mind was yanked away. And he saw the universal form of the mother. Let me quote this. He was joyous and he was yelling in joy. The omnipresent divine mother, cosmic mother, omnipotent mother, omnipresent mother. Mother is in the water and in the land. Mother is the body and the mind. Mother is illness and health. Mother is knowledge and ignorance. Mother is life and death. Whatever I see, hear, think is all mother. No embodied being can ever transcend this great goddess. She turns yea into nay and nay into yea. No one even has the power to die at will if it's not her will. And no one can get liberation until she permits that soul to be released. The same mother, he says, is beyond body and mind and intellect, transcendent, beyond all attributes. So he had a vision of the universal form of the mother, as well as the absolute form of the mother, transcendent, the immanent and the transcendent. When he was struck with this great vision, he waded back to the shore. He sat down, plunged into meditation, and he began singing those songs of the Divine Mother, whom he thought as just a figment and an illusion. Yeah. So this was his experience. There are various experiences. Like, take for instance, Sri Ramakrishna's experience. He started worshipping the goddess through an image. And he's saying, is the goddess real? Does she listen to my prayer? Can she see what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling? And this went for days and days. And one day, saying, when it was too much, as they say, the author says that in desperation, there was a scimitar on the walls of the temple. He grabbed it and he was about to behead himself. And at that moment, saying, he fell down. He was unconscious of the external world. He did not know how long he was in this state. The external world had disappeared. The doors, windows, floor, ceiling, etc. of the temple, everything dissolved and vanished into an shoreless ocean of light. And he saw that waves of different heights rushing towards him, waves of light rushing towards him and submerging him. And he panted and struggled to kind of stay afloat. He was pulled down in that ocean of light. And he revived, saying just, Mother, Mother, Mother. This was his encounter. Let's have a little kind of, Swami Vivekananda says, how I used to hate Kali and all her ways, that bloodthirsty goddess. Saying this was my 6 years fight, but eventually she made me a slave. Now she guides me in everything I do and say. Yeah. And you know what happened was, he was brilliant, but certain circumstances had impelled him, and not only him, the whole family, into penury. They were thrown out of their houses because their relatives just threw them out of their houses. They were starving. They're homeless and starving. So he was wondering, why don't I go to my guru, Sri Ramakrishna, and tell him to intercede on my behalf? So he goes to Sri Ramakrishna and he says, you know, all your troubles are because you do not accept my mother Kali. Well, today's Tuesday, go. And you tell her what you want when it's evening. So he waited the whole day, and when it was evening, dusk, he went towards the temple. He was feeling a kind of a numbness in his hands and feet, he's saying. And as he climbed the stairs, and he said, instead of encountering the basalt image of the Divine Mother, he saw her a real, full of consciousness, smiling and blissful. And that blew him away. Saying, he was supposed to go and pray for mundane things. No, family and job and, wealth and whatever. And here he saw the Divine Mother standing there. And he's saying, I don't want anything. I want love. I want devotion. I want to have an uninterrupted vision of you. So he returned from that encounter, and Sri Ramakrishna was waiting for him. Did you tell the goddess your needs? Oh, I forgot. Go back again, silly boy. Control yourself a little. And he goes again, and again he sees the Divine Mother standing blissful, full of consciousness. That stone, as it were, had turned into light, consciousness. And once again he repeated what he asked for the first time. Knowledge and devotion and renunciation and peace and joy. He came away. Sri Ramakrishna again was waiting for him. Sent him the third time. Hold yourself a little. Have a little self-control. And the third time he goes and sees the goddess again. And he was feeling so ashamed. Oh, Mother, I don't want anything else. I just want to see you always. And his heart was full of peace and joy. Okay. This is the encounter. First kind, second kind, third kind, the close encounters. Yeah, just before coming to the West, I was standing in front of this same Divine Mother in that same place where Swami Vivekananda was, the same standing. And I was just trying to visualize. I'm seeing this image now made of that black basalt, the stone. It's a very beautiful image of Kali. But this very image, where hundreds of sages from Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna and all, they had seen her alive and living and breathing. So we must say, how does a stone image breathe? Yeah, Sri Ramakrishna checked her breath and found there's breath, she's alive. Amazing. So this goddess has been encountered throughout human history. Whether in a kind of a low intensity way or a high intensity way. She is that entire spectrum of experiences. Let's end up with that. We have got so much to talk, but then this will go on and on and on. So there, in one of these books in praise of the goddess, great goddess, they're saying, repeated salutations to you, O great goddess, who dwells in all beings as intelligence, consciousness, sleep, hunger, thirst, peace, beauty, love, compassion, faith. In short, everything the human mind conceives and works through is her. It's that those great sayings, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Nidra Rupena Samstita Namastasai, Namastasai, Namaste. Repeat the salutations to you. Where is that great goddess? She is there within us. It's an kind of intimate encounter that we have with her every single moment, with every working mode of the mind. It is she. She pervades everything as consciousness. So we are in a constant dynamic with this great goddess, and we can't be separate from her. So we have been encountering the great goddess, and rather the great goddess, as I said, has been encountering us all through our lives and all through our various lives. If you can't remember that, then we've accomplished everything. Yesterday we had gone to Balboa Beach, and there we had taken a boat, and we had, you can say, sailed a little distant from the shore. Why? Because we had a kind of an image worship of the Kali, and so we had gone to immerse her. And people say, well, that's idolatry, the worship of Kali and this Durga and all these. No. We know what's real worship. So we take that image which we have so devotedly worshipped the whole night with all these prayers and mantras and this and that, and we take it and dump her down. Immerse her. She has emerged from this cosmos, and we are returning her back to the cosmos. We are worshipping the cosmic mother. And the moment you see somebody who is saying, oh, they've broken my divine mother's image, that's idolatry. You can't break the divine mother. You cannot break the great goddess. She is everything. That's real idolatry. This is real worship. When at one point of your encounter with this great goddess, this knowledge will spark that, yeah, we have been living in her. It's not that the goddess has to be taken and immersed, in the cosmos. We have to merge in the great goddess. This is the idea of an immersion. It's called a visarjan. So you merge your individual consciousness with that of the great mother, the great goddess. This will be the culmination of your life which you have been evolving for millions of years. Oh yeah, we are not young. We never came the other day here. Get it out of your mind that we are new here. Oh, we are pretty old, ancient. We are billion years old. We have been slowly manifesting ourselves. And we have come to this stage in life's long journey where we can understand the great goddess and finally let go. And from the individual, we become the universal. That is the great goddess. Om, peace, 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 in the name of the great goddess.
questions? It's open. Q&A.
After the great goddess, who's going to...
Anybody would like to have an encounter?
That's a great goddess.
How many goddesses are there in India?
How many goddesses are there in India? There are a few million. Yeah, 80 million, rough estimates. You see, religion is in the soul of a human being. Religion is not outside, it's reflected outside because we are so dull and stupid. We want some candles, we want some incense, we want some flowers, we want this. Religion is in your very soul. So you have, through some encounters, understood, suppose you have understood that great goddess as the goddess of wealth, or the goddess of learning, or the goddess of prosperity, and the goddess of destruction. Yeah, conceptualize her. And that's what religion really is. There will come a time when each and every one will have their own personal Godhead to worship according to one's nature. Yes. You see, suppose you take any religion. Religion is like a kind of monolithic religion. Yeah, take for instance Christianity. Everyone's interpretation of Christianity is different. They read Christianity differently. To them, Christianity is not one, Christianity is many. And this is what we need to. Your reading of Christ will be slightly different from your neighbor. So this is how we can slowly personalize our own reality and worship it. And as I said, all these qualities are abstracted. Qualities of wealth and prosperity and destruction and learning, etc., etc. And they are formed into one meta-goddess. This has not to be forgotten. So that meta-goddess has been personalized into this form. Good enough. Millions are good.
Yes.
What is the significance of the female, the goddess instead of God? It's all one, right? So if you could expand on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, the significance of a female versus the male, etc. And all gods are kind of one. It is. Now, all our conceptions of God are based on our own understanding of ourselves. Male and female. God is beyond all sex. This is one thing. No God sitting down with a long robe, with a long beard and doesn't feel. But when we want to translate this idea of that impersonal God into personal, we kind of make it into a female. We are using this female as a goddess because this was the beginning actually of worship. Religion began with the worship of these powers behind nature. And nature is always said, her will, its nature is always feminine gender. No offense meant. So this worship was actually with humanity for millions of years. So everything that has power, everything that has kind of dynamism, everything that moves, we said this is the female. So this is the idea of the divine feminine. Okay, it has nothing to do with sex. Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So he saw an image of the Divine Mother, a tipsy and devotee, he saw the image of a divine mother and saying, "Hey, what's this? She has on a kind of a sacred thread across her shoulders. That's meant only for males." So the worshipper is saying, "Oh, I don't know whether mother is male or female. It seems you know." And then that guy, the tipsy devotee, he just retracted. The idea is, we need to start with a conception of Godhead that's close to us, that's intimate, that's loving, that's caring, that responds. And the best is the Godhead as mother. Okay. That's the reason why we had, the old fertility goddesses found all over, in all cultures. What are they? Just fertility goddesses. Yeah, they had that creative power within that. So this is the idea of a female god, the female goddess. And we had males also. So in India, what happens, every god had a counterpart, a goddess. You don't have just a god. Okay, you have to have a god and a goddess as complementary, as the power behind the gods. So this was the idea of that female, you can say, the feminine, the divine feminine encapsulated in this concept of. So it's nothing to do with the male and female sex. It's just that there are these creative forces, powers, personalized in the form of a goddess, mother. Yeah, it's kind of exciting, this how we are evolving to higher and higher ideas of Godhead. And naturally, why should your ideas of Godhead can crystallize into something unchangeable? Ridiculous. Everything is changing, but your ideas of God have not been changed. That means you have not evolved. As you evolve, you have higher and higher conceptions of that same Godhead.
Swami, as you just described, the image of Kali is just symbolic of the underlying universality behind her. But during the Kali Puja, isn't there a concept that somehow something is invoked into the image itself and then withdrawn again before you merge it? So what's the invocation?
Oh, good.
What's that all about?
You understand the basic principles of this puja. Yes. You are actually infusing that image with your own life and consciousness. What you need to do is, that's the principle of all worship. We just don't go to a stone or a clay image and, "Oh God, I've got a headache, please take care of that." The idea of worship in Vedanta and Hinduism is, you have to be a god to worship God. Devo bhutva devam yajit. So how do you do that? So there are various mantras and various prayers that each and every part of the body has a mantra. There's a mantra for this index finger and this index finger and this pinky, and you have to touch every part of your body. Yang, 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 rang, lang, 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 wang, 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 tang, tang. The whole body is now energized. And then your vital forces, your life forces are then energized, awakened. And then you have to take the whole thing and raise your consciousness gradually up till the head here. And then bring it down here and symbolically breathe it into a flower and place it on the deity. Now you're infusing that clay image with your own consciousness. And now you worship it. And if you just take for instance an example. If suppose no one comes here in this hall for a few years, and after maybe a few years, 5 or 6 years, somebody walks in, this place will appear dead. Yeah, there are some places appear dead. There are some places appear alive. we infuse this whole place with our own life and consciousness. Yes, this thing appears real, alive because of us. The same principle is used in the image worship. So this image right now is a living presence. It responds to prayers, it responds to worship, and the mother can. At the end of the worship, that life and consciousness is once again retracted, pulled back into the worshipper. Oh yes. At the very, you can say, culmination of the worship, we have this idea, like Sri Ramakrishna showed, when instead of worshipping an image, he worshipped his own wife, Sri Sharda. They were both joined in a union on the level of samadhi. The worshipper and the worship both merge. And then at the end of the worship, they disengage and the worshipper comes back. The whole thing is now retracted. And that is the first stage of immersion of the mother in your own heart. She came out of your own heart. You've infused that image and then you bring it back inside. So this is what is called, that's a good question. And so if you just pray to a deity, just okay, give me this, give me this. And you wonder why God is not listening to my prayers. So this whole thing, for the time being when the worship is going on, that mother is now alive. Yes. And I have known many monks who, when they touch that image, that clay image, it's as if touching flesh, warm human flesh. Yeah.
Swamiji, can I just ask you something in relation to India? In northern part of India, especially in Bengal and north part of India, Punjab, the Kali Ma is worshipped very prevalently. But in southern part of India is mostly, Tamil Nadu and Kerala is mostly Shiva and Vishnu. I'm just wondering why is that? Why much more worship of Kali Ma in northern part of India?
Why no? When we were young, we used to, about the worship of male goddesses in one location of India and female locations are predominant in some parts of India. That's what the question was. It's nothing. The mother worship predated all these kind of worship. So even when Vishnu was asleep, as you know, it's the mother who put him to sleep. And Brahma starts singing a song. Oh mother, awaken this Vishnu. Guy, he has to do all his job. So male goddesses, as you never caught this idea, the male goddesses are always accompanied by their powers. So Vishnu, the god Vishnu, which is very prevalent in southern parts of India, has got Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Shiva has got Parvati, the goddess, the great goddess, as the essential component. So if you look at just one side, okay, that's a male, there's a female also. In your body itself, there are both male and female hormones. There's no body which is exclusively male and there's no body that is exclusively female. The female has male components and male has female components. It's as simple. There is nothing. The whole universe is a combination of these principles of static and dynamic, male and female. Everything, Sri Ramakrishna says, all male forms are forms of Rama and all female forms the female form of Shiva. So it's a complement. They're complementary, the gods and goddesses. But in certain parts of India, there were these matrilineal lineages. Even today, you have the child gets its name, carries a name. I mean, the given name is different, and then we have the family name of the mother. These are old strongholds of mother worship. especially in Kerala. Kerala is all mother worship. And even today, the children carry that matrilineal, you can say, lineages. Assam and Bengal and all, these are all old strongholds of mother worship. Okay, that's why it is more predominant in these. But that's good enough. Let's have some variety. Yeah.
Swami, as follow-up to Richard's question.
Yeah.
So in our daily worship, when we, in our shrine, in our home shrine, should we be doing what you were talking about, where we breathe our energy into the image of whomever we might be worshiping, for example, Ramakrishna, and then at the end of our meditation and prayers, we bring it back into ourselves?
You see, worship, the worship of Ramakrishna, if you have gone through some of these guidelines, it's both external and internal. You have to take the power of consciousness, which is called a Kundalini, from the lowest centers, raise it up to the highest, and then after you have raised it and then you have infused the image of Sri Ramakrishna, then you worship it. The principle stands in every instance. Now what happens is, where daily worship is concerned, you are not going to immerse that. So keep on infusing your power over and over and over and over again. Now if you notice, we have a daily worship in this shrine here. I dare you to go inside and not feel anything. Yeah. My God, what's this? And for a newcomer, it's kind of the real encounter. Oh my God. What's this? The whole thing is kind of vibrant, alive. That is what is being done. A kind of a daily infusion by the worshipper. And who gets the benefit? Those who go to that shrine and sit down and meditate, they absorb that energy. So this is the idea of a daily worship. We don't need to daily immerse it. But then there are certain, you can see, worships that are called Nitya Puja, daily pujas, that they have this. But the principle also holds here also, that being a god, you worship the gods. And if that is followed, that is real thing. Yeah.
Swami, this is not a question, but I'm sure that all of us are coming, are introduced to spiritual life, to different traditions and different religions. You might have heard about the concept of Virgin Mary in Catholicism. Particularly here in California, we have this Virgen Sita de Guadalupe. Can we worship her as the Divine Mother herself?
Yeah, why not? Of course. You can worship it. You can worship anybody as Divine Mother. Yes, of course. Don't limit yourself. That's the idea. Because this idea of sectarianism is actually killing religion. Don't become sectarian. Don't become narrow. Broaden out. Oh, the god or goddess will be angry. They don't get angry. You don't. It's humans are stupid and they get angry actually. So when you worship the Divine Mother like that, she is very loving, Oh yeah, she's very loving. And that is what you all feel. Love. Wherever there is life, you will feel a love. That is the mother. So keep your love pure for her and then see you experiencing it. Broaden out. Take up any forms of worship and keep on pushing on and on and on. You will see higher aspects of that same Divine Mother. Sri Ramakrishna says, when you approach the Divine Mother, first she is with 8 hands or 12 hands, kind of looking terrible in a kind of aggressive form when she is destroying evil. Then as you approach her, then you'll see her with 4 hands. Then as you keep on approaching her, then you see her with 2 hands. And approach her even more, then she will appear to you as a baby. Like, we have these gods of like, the baby Krishna and baby, like the Christ and the statue of the Madonna and all these things. All ideas of majesty and glory and power are removed of. When the divinity is shown of all the powers, then you just have pure love for that. Yeah. So, oh, God has created all these things. Yeah, maybe, yeah. But for me, God is my little baby Jesus, little baby Krishna, little baby. Yeah. I have to take care of this child. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Chitirupenaya kritsnam ekam vyapya sthita jagat. Namastasai, 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 namo namaha. So repeated salutations to the goddess, the great goddess, who pervades this entire world in the form of consciousness. Salutations to you inside, salutations to you outside. Peace, peace, peace. Go, because you're living in the Divine Mother.